Hey guys, it's Eric with the Miller Park Minute, where we're throwing strikes and getting likes, hitting dingers, getting listeners back again with the podcast. We are now on, I don't even know, daily number 8 or 9. We're having fun with this. Yesterday we talked to Tim Dillard. That was a great interview. If you did get the opportunity to see it, go back and check it out. Available on Anchor and YouTube. Let's start today. We'll talk about SeatGeek. Eric, and the SeatGeek code is, I was reading my name. Sorry. SeatGeek code is Miller Park Minute. You go over to SeatGeek, you get $20 off your first purchase of tickets. I can be baseball tickets, concert tickets, football tickets, basketball tickets, you name it. WWE, pro wrestling, whatever you want, you get $20 off your first ticket. All right, that being said, let's get back into the show. It is a daily show airing every day at 5:30 a.m. is when the episodes go live. It is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Today is a Butcher episode, so Fresh Cuts with the Butcher is airing shortly after this brief 2 minutes of my conversation. It was kind of great. I got to sit live while the Butcher was recording, and he didn't know I was there on the software, so it was kind of fun. I surprised him at the end. Big news today. Carlos Correa is yet again being signed by a third team. Now, is it going to break down like it did with the other two? We don't know, but it's the Twins. And I actually called this, and I think I said this in a couple episodes. The Twins get him for 6 years, $200 million. So pending physical, it's almost funny to say at this point with this Carlos Correa signings, but pending physical, Carlos Correa is going to go back to the Twins. Now, I think this should stick because he was already with the Twins, and it's shorter term, less money. So that's about it with that. The only other news that I really have to report today, guys, is the Brewers made an acquisition of Josh Van Meter, former Reds D-back Pirate. Doesn't have a very good slash line for the MLB, only 237, 327, 408. But he's got some good numbers in MIL, minor league baseball. 348, 429, 669 slash line. He's a depth piece. He's I believe a minor league signing. I didn't even look, to be honest. I want to say it's a minor league deal. Yeah, minor league deal. Sorry, I wrote it on the paper. And then we're just kind of filling out things. So the next part of this episode is actually going to be the Butcher. So I'll let Butcher take over for the vast majority here. Butcher basically is going to break down the starting pitching and our depth in the starting rotation. He's got some great things to say. I sat and listened. I sat and watched, and then I jumped in on the end and kind of surprised him. So it's kind of fun for me. Had a little bit of fun with it. But guys, enjoy the Fresh Cuts with the Butcher. He's got a great mind, and he's our analytics department here at the Miller Park Minute. So I'm going to lead right into that. Thank you again for watching. We'll catch you later. We got, I did not mention Dominic Cotroneo, statistician for the Milwaukee Brewers, is coming up live, in tomorrow's episode. So check that out. That will be live at 5:30 a.m. Yeah, and I think I'll kick it to the Butcher now. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Butcher's Fresh Cuts, part of the Miller Park Minute Network, a place where we're known for throwing strikes and getting likes. I'm the Butcher. Great to be talking to you today. Where the Miller Park Minute is known for its daily chats about the Brewers and things going around on the league. Here at the Butcher's Fresh Cuts, we like to take one topic and really dive into it. We like to talk a lot of numbers here, and we do deep analysis on Brewers players and beyond. Last week, On the show here at the Butcher's Fresh Cuts, we took a look into the Brewers' potential lineup for 2023, which may look a lot better than a lot of folks might think. And to check out that episode, look at last Wednesday's edition of the Miller Park Minute, the January 4th episode entitled Alex Claudio is Back and Proposing Pitching Moves, also Return of the Butcher. So big thanks to all of you for checking in with me and checking out the show today, and for watching Miller Park Minute, the daily podcast, the best daily podcast that you can find for all your Brewers local content here and beyond. Continuing on the deep dive on the Brewers roster today, we'll be looking at the brightest spot on the club, of course, the starting rotation. In 2022, the Brewers starting rotation as a whole was the same kind of dominant staff that we had seen in 2021, but that was only when the starters were pitching. The injury bug hit the starting staff pretty damn hard in 2021. Every pitcher in the starting rotation spent time on the injured list in 2022, other than, of course, Corbin Burnes. That would include Eric Lauer, Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, Aaron Ashby, and Adrian Hauser. They all spent significant time on the injured list in 2022, which really hurt the resulting numbers that were put up by the end of the season. Because of this, we saw some additional starts from Jason Alexander, Chichi Gonzalez, and Jose Urena, as well as the major league debut of the Brewers' top pitching prospect right now, Ethan Small. The result of all of this being a starting rotation that ended up being pretty mid overall in terms of the stats and the numbers. The Brewers were 12th in team ERA at 3.75, just behind the Seattle Mariners, one of my other favorite ball clubs. Shout out to the Seattle Pilots. The staff was 13th in team starting pitching, WAR at 12.3, just behind the Miami Marlins. And they gave up 1.13 dingers per game, which put them at 14th in Major League Baseball, just behind the White Sox, who, as we all know, had a very disappointing season as well, just much like the Milwaukee Brewers. This one area of the staff dominated, however, in a huge way. And in one way that they did was in strikeouts per 9 innings. With swing and miss stuff at the top of the rotation, the Brewers averaged 9.42 Ks per 9, and that got them good to be tied for the best in all of baseball with the New York Mets, the high-spending, high-flying Mets who won 100 games last year, who featured last season Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer at the top of their rotation. This year they ramped it up a little bit, dropping deGrom and grabbing, of course, Justin Verlander, the Cy Young from 2022 in the AL. But overall, despite the injuries and along with the trade of Josh Hader at the trade deadline, the starting rotation was once again the focal point of this ball club, keeping us in games in a playoff hunt until the last week of the season. And once again, in 2023, the team will look to the starting rotation to carry them throughout the long season. The staff will yet again be led by 2021 Cy Young winner and Brewers ace Corbin Burnes. And why not start there at our top ace, the man, the myth, the legend, Corbin Burnes. And it's so much fun to talk about Corbin Burnes. We're very lucky in Wisconsin to have such legendary players playing right now for our local team. Giannis Antetokounmpo, love him or hate him, Aaron Rodgers, and of course, Christian Yelich winning his MVP. But a Cy Young is just different, and to me, it's personally a great honor just to have that guy suit up for us 30 plus times a year. Corbin Burnes winning the Cy Young in 2021 felt as good as anything I personally ever felt as a Wisconsin sports fan. And enough can't be said about him as a pitcher. Once again, I mean, to never have witnessed the Brewers World Series even appearance in my lifetime, I would say that the Corbin Burnes winning the Cy Young feels like it's the closest thing to that, especially because we've had a few MVPs in my lifetime here. We've had some pretty good accolades, but Corbin Burnes winning the Cy Young feels bigger than all of those. It feels bigger than the Packers winning the 2010 Super Bowl. And it's hard to follow up the Cy Young season, and yet Burnes did a fantastic job running it back in 2022. He was the only member of our starting pitching staff that remained healthy throughout the season, as I mentioned before, and he was exactly the kind of workhorse we needed him to be, pitching a career-high 202 innings and 33 starts. Besides a rough start for Burnes on opening day against the Cubs, he popped off a 1.95 ERA through his first 10 appearances of the year. And as the summer went on, however, he had some rough patches, and including a few blow-up starts that are quite uncharacteristic of Corbin Burnes. In 2022, he had 7 starts, allowing at least 4 earned runs, and by mid-September, that ERA ballooned to a 3.12. By season's end, Burnsy was back on track, giving up 0 runs on 4 hits with 12 strikeouts in his final 2 starts, finally finishing with a 2.94 ERA, keeping it under 3, and a 4.0 WAR on the season, and that would be good for second on the team behind Willie Adames. Burns was a strikeout machine in 2022, piling up a 243 strikeouts on the year, which was best in the National League. So won a Cy Young last year, most strikeouts in the National League this year. Pretty good follow-up to that great campaign last year. He pitched 9 starts with 10 or more strikeouts, and in 6 of those starts, he gave up 1 run or less. In total, he had 16 starts allowing 1 run or less. That's fantastic efficiency, and it's something we've grown used to at this point, but Corbin Burns is not something we should grow used to. This guy is fantastic, and we should appreciate every time he steps on the mound for us. And as the accolades keep piling up for Corbin Burns, however, one begins to wonder about his future in Milwaukee, and it's been a huge topic this offseason. Burns becomes a free agent after the 2024 season, and after all that he has overcome early in his career, battling really bad numbers early on, a little bit of bullpen time here and there, and just not having the success, and ultimately getting the LASIK and improving his pitching in every facet of the game. And all that he's accomplished with the team since then, Cy Young and accolades, it feels like it only makes sense to pay the man now. This offseason, the front office has some very tough decisions to think about in terms of signing the most important pieces. And I hear predicted last week on last Wednesday's show that the Brewers would extend Willie Adames before the season's open on March 30th at Wrigley. I, however, do not think we will see the Brewers extend Corbin Burns or Brandon Woodruff before the season begins. I have a feeling that the front office wants to see how pitchers adapt to the new offensive rule changes that take effect in 2023. In reality, we may see the rule changes affect the pitcher's contract, especially if the stats on paper suffer from the bigger bases, lack of defensive infield shift, or the new pickoff rule, and pitchers' perceived effectiveness goes down. My real prediction is that teams like the Brewers, you know what I mean by that, will bide their time and try to use these rule changes as an advantage in contract negotiations going forward. I'm interested if anyone out there has any takes on this. Feel free to comment below or let me know what you think. But I don't think that they're going to pay pitchers, especially teams like the Brewers aren't going to pay pitchers right away. I think that they are going to wait to see how the rule changes affect them. I think they are going to see if the numbers go up for those pitchers because there's going to be more ground balls getting out of the way and dropping for base hits. The positioning is going to affect that. Stolen bases are supposed to ramp up. All these offensive metrics are supposed to ramp up as a result of these rule changes, and that's going to, who's ultimately that going to hurt more than anybody? The pitching all around, and that will, in theory, affect those contract numbers when negotiations take place and make them a little lower. So I'd love to know what you guys think about that. I haven't heard anyone else really make that take, but I think it's something interesting and worth discussing and exploring into a little deeper. Overall, Corbin Burns is the ace of the staff. I want to see him locked up. I think he's going to have another fantastic season as our number one, a guy who thrives on swing and miss stuff. I don't see the rule changes hurting him too much at all. He is a guy that thrives on the strikeout. He had the most in the National League last year, and his swing and miss stuff will be less penetrable to the new offensive rule changes. He's a stud who continues to improve his craft. And if I'm going to make a prediction for him, I'll say he's good for another 30 starts this year. I think he remains healthy. I think we give him 250 Ks. I think he ups that number from last year because he's a guy who just continues to improve. So we're in good hands at the top of the rotation. Next, we'll move on to Brandon Woodruff, our number 2 guy, and a guy who could be an ace in many, many other ball clubs in Major League Baseball. 2022, Brandon Woodruff was also coming off the best season of his career. Where in 2021, he got a second 20. In 2022, Brandon Woodruff, he was coming off his best season of his career in 21, where he made a second All-Star nod and came in 5th for the Cy Young Award himself. He was 5th behind Corbin Burns. So in the top 5, the Brewers had 2 pitchers in the National League vying for a Cy Young Award in the top 5. Brandon Woodruff struggled to begin the season, and after 9 starts, his ERA sat at an uncharacteristic 4.74, and he was giving up home runs at a pace that just weren't likely. In that ninth start of the year, Woodruff was pulled with an ankle injury. As he was out for the ankle, Woody developed a condition known as Raynaud syndrome in his pitching hand. This condition affects blood flow to the fingers, which is a nightmare for pitchers, as you can imagine, especially when attempting to throw a breaking ball where grip is everything. He eventually missed a whole month out of the season. And when he came back, when Woody came back, he was one of the most effective pitchers in baseball. After that injury, he came back, and that's where he earned that fifth place Cy Young finish for voting. He bolstered a rotation that desperately needed him at the time. The offense was low. And from the time he returned to the end of the year, he put up a 2.38 ERA. He struck out 31.6 of the batters he faced to just a 6.7 walk rate. That's amazing. Ultimately, having a rough start and missing a month, Brandon Woodruff had another fantastic season for the Brewers, logging the third most innings on the team with 153 and a third, and he led the team in wins at 13, and he struck out 190 batters and had a career best 11.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, which was higher than even that of Corbin Burns last year. Woodruff, also like Burns, he is coming up on free agency after next season, and he's due to be paid a huge pile of money. He's also a guy who comes up frequently in trade talks, and if the Brewers aren't in a position to go anywhere come trade deadline time, he may be the major piece in the deal when we see that time come. Which means he's going to pitch out of his mind this season. With the improvement of his strikeouts per nine from year to year, he's likely to go off again in 2023 with that nasty swing and miss stuff, much like Corbin Burns. He would be a number one to a lot of teams in Major League Baseball. We're lucky to have Woody, and I predict 180 Ks and a sub-3 ERA from Woody this year. So let's enjoy the season from Woody, as he, like a number of these other guys, he may not be here much longer. Next, we'll talk about Eric Lauer. Lauer is a guy who has grown to become an integral part of the starting rotation and a guy who can eat innings and be quite effective while he's doing it. 2022 saw a career high in innings pitched by Eric Lauer at 158 and two-thirds. He struck out the most batters in his career, fanning 157, which was good for third most on the team and the most since his 2019 season with the Padres, which was the one that got him such the hype that began about him to begin with. He finished with a respectable 3.69 ERA on the year, despite having a season that, much like Brandon Woodruff, didn't start off too hot for the lefty. Over his first 9 appearances, Eric Lauer had a skyrocketed 5.21 ERA, and things were not looking good, and his whip was at a 1.42. Those were numbers much higher than he had ever had at any previous point in his career, and it left a lot of cause for concern. Seemingly after that, he increased his slider and curveball usage significantly and dialed back his four-seam and cutter usage, and that turned on the jets for Eric Lauer the rest of the season. He became the pitcher we all know that he has the capabilities to be, and a much higher value player than anyone anticipated when we got him in the package deal with Luis Urias for Trent Grisham with the Padres in the offseason following 2019 and Grisham's famous collapse in the wild card game. That's a deal that's really worked out well for the Brewers in the long term. We've gained a lot of years of value out of both of those players, and they're both continuing to grow as players. And they're both starting pieces for this team. Most projections say that Eric Lauer will stay about where he's been the last 2 years in terms of the numbers, and I think that would be great for him. He's not exactly a swing and miss guy like the first two guys we talked about. He pitches more to contact, and those are the guys who will be most likely to be affected by the rule changes that I keep going on and on about. Lauer is also a guy who's going to be a free agent after 2024, like the first two guys, and if he continues this pace, he's due to make some money or be moved. I think that Eric Lauer is a great pitcher, and he has some nice deceptive stuff, but I see him being traded sooner than later, and for now, he's our number 3. I love watching him pitch for the Crew, and I say, as far as a projection, I'm going to project that his numbers are near to similar last year because, like I said, I think that will be a blessing for the team and for Eric Lauer if he can continue the kind of pace that he's been on. Next, we will move on to this guy. The Brewers' most likely player to steal your girl, the Brewers' most handsome player, Fastball Freddie. Freddie's 2022 season was filled with much disappointment as he spent much of the season on the injured list. He sustained a lat strain in May that put him on the shelf throughout all of June and July before returning to the team in August. He went back again to the injured list from September 9th to the 24th with elbow inflammation. As a result, our flame-throwing heartthrob righty only made 17 starts, down from a career high of 27 in 2021, and he was never really able to pitch like himself in 2022. He was still a quality pitcher, logging a 1.10 ERA plus and a 3.58 ERA, and struck out 86 in 78 innings of work. He gave us the best he could despite nursing the injuries that he had to deal with all season long. The nagging injuries can be put in perspective by his 9.9 strikeouts per nine last year. That's vastly, vastly uncharacteristic of Freddie Peralta. He's never had a season below 11 Ks per nine before 2022, and I guarantee we will not see that number below 11 in 2023. Eric on the Miller Park Minute, our buddy over there, he predicted that Freddie would throw a no-no in 2023. And if there's any guy on the staff that has the stuff to do that and can turn it on, I think it is Freddie Peralta. So I'll second that prediction that Eric was talking about. I predict Freddie will again be an all-star in 2023, and his swing and miss stuff just continues to throw off batters. And as he matures into one of the most unhittable pitchers in the National League Central, I tune into Freddie starts when they're on, because you never know when he's going to dish out 12 or more punch-outs in a game. And he does it with such a ferocity that it's must-see TV. Watch for Freddie to ball out in 2023. Let's hope he stays healthy. Let's hope he just does what Freddie Peralta does, because he's just a gem, and I just love how deep our staff is. Speaking of depth with the staff, we're going to talk about the Butcher's freshest of the fresh cuts for 2023. The young stud southpaw Aaron Cash That Check Ashby. You may look at Aaron Ashby's 2022 numbers and think that the Butcher's off his rocker. He had a 4.44 ERA, giving up 15 ding-dongs with a 1.425 whip in 107 in the third innings in 2022. And I'm with you. Those aren't the kind of numbers that just jump off the page. However, the kid is 23 years young. He's got a 97-mile-per-hour sinking fastball, a hard mid-80s slider, and an upper 80s changeup that has nasty, nasty drop. He's 23. At such a young age, he's got a fastball with already top-of-the-line velocity, and his secondary pitches are thrown at relatively hard and at a velocity that will throw batters off guaranteed. He's the type of pitcher that makes hitters very uncomfortable in the box when his command is on. But once again, he's young. His walk rate in the minors was high at 11%, but so far in his majors, he's already dropped that down to 9. While being a swing and miss pitcher, he has also elite ground ball rates as well at 61.3%, near top of the major league percent, which I think was Luis Castillo last season at 65. He's near the top of the ranks at ground ball percentage as well. He's on track to show huge improvement in 2023, with FanGraphs projecting him to lower that ERA down to 3.29 with 134 strikeouts in 119 innings pitched. And the Brewers themselves also bought in heavily to the upside for Ashby, locking him down last July to a 5-year deal worth $20.5 million. That means they think good things about this kid. They want to see him around. A lot of folks out there, well, not a lot of folks, I've seen a couple articles, and I've heard some buzz out there that say, by season's end, Aaron Ashby will be the setup man for the bullpen. You've heard it here first that that's a load of bullcrap. Aaron Ashby is going to have a breakout season in 2023. If there's one thing that I can hang my hat on this season, as far as the pitching goes, it's Aaron Ashby. This guy's got the goods. And if he can stay healthy, you can chop that up, put it on your hoagie, and eat it, because that's the Butcher's freshest of the fresh cuts for 2023. Moving on, next pitcher in the starting staff, Adrian Hauser. The Brewers are likely to employ a 6-man rotation in 2023, and with my guarantee that Ashby is going to be a big part of that, the likely 6-man role of that rotation will be left to Adrian Hauser. Hauser remains a fixture in the Brewers rotation, but after a poor 2022 performance that was plagued with injury, he's in need of a big bounce back this upcoming year. Our man, he missed 2 months with an elbow injury starting on July 1st, finally coming back on August 24th. And now, long after coming back, later on in September, he felt a pop in his groin, causing him to miss the rest of the season with a right groin strain. Though he was still managed to log to be fourth in starts for the Brewers pitchers in 2022. When Hauser did pitch, he was not nearly as effective as he was in 2021 when he had the best season of his career. He had a career low ERA last year or ERA plus last season at 83. If you don't know much about ERA plus, it's the same as OPS plus, where 100 is league average always. There's nothing will ever fluctuate. 100 will always be the league average for that point in time of the year. 83 is not good. 83 is well below that league average. 100 is average. 83 is much lower than average. His season amounted to a negative .8 WAR for the season, meaning he was statistically worse than the average replacement level player. His ground ball percentage was way down to 46.6%, all the way down from 58.6 in 2021. And his fly ball however, his fly ball percent was up to 19.3%, its highest mark since 2018, which may be a positive factor coming into next season, as ground balls may make for more base hits this coming year, and as fly ball pitchers will then inherently become more valuable because fly balls will become more valuable because chances are you're going to make that out on the fly ball rather than the ground ball this season. I think we all know basically what kind of pitcher we're going to get out of Adrian Hauser. The projections paint the picture of about the same caliber the season we saw in 22. Not great. He's a contact pitcher who doesn't tend to give up a lot of home runs, and he can also be good for a lot of clean innings. We've seen that. He's been with the team for quite some time. He can give you a lot of clean innings, and a lot of teams are in a worse position at the bottom of their rotation. So let's send a little love Adrian's way. Let's hope for the best. I remember his first start of his career at Miller Park. It was a Sunday, and he puked down the mound, and Council left him in there to fight through it. I believe that he has what it takes to fight through many, many things in his career, and he's been a solid pitcher for this team. So if he's fifth or sixth this season, we're not in too bad a shape. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the other guys who are going to make some starts for the team this year, potentially make some starts. But they're not necessarily going to be part of that active rotation that we talked about. The Brewers' number 11 top prospect, left-hander Ethan Small, made his big league debut last season, making just 2 starts with 6 innings pitched, walking 8, striking out 7, and giving up 5 earned runs. Ethan Small mainly relies on deceptive delivery, as his fastball does sit in the low 90s, and he mainly relies on that fastball changeup. In his minor league career, Ethan Small rocked a 3.13 ERA, very good, with a 1.252 whip and 10.8 strikeouts per 9. And he struck out 242 batters in 201 innings pitched. Very, very excellent numbers. That's why he's put so high on this prospect list and why he made his debut last year. He's a 25-year-old kid who most likely spend most of the year in AAA, but I think we're going to see him put up about 40 innings of work this season to get some seasoning. And he'll probably play a larger role if one of our top dogs gets hurt with injury again this season, like we dealt with a lot last year. And I'm excited to see what kind of results we can see Small put up on the big stage. Small, big, you get it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this next player, as he has had a long and interesting career. And after playing for 7 different ball clubs and over the course of a 12-year career, one of which being with the Milwaukee Brewers in 2018, the crew brought back 36-year-old Wade Allen Miley. Wham! Wade Allen Miley. Wham! Wade Miley has been the Brewers' splash free agency move of the offseason, signing a 1-year, $4.5 million deal with a mutual option for 24. He's the first and only move as of January 10th when I'm recording this the Brewers have made in free agency thus far this offseason. A lot of people are not too happy about that, but let's go on about it. Let's dive in a little more. Wade Miley was limited to just 37 innings of work last year with the Cubs due to elbow and shoulder injuries. Since his time with the Brewers in 18, where he was an effective piece for us on the way to the NLCS, Miley has pitched for the Astros, Reds, and Cubs. He had a solid season with Houston in 2019, rolling out a 3.98 ERA, and had an even better season in 2021 with the Reds, finishing with a 3.37 ERA in 28 starts, including a no-hitter against the Cleveland. They were not the Guardians last year, but the Guardians. In 2021, they weren't the Guardians. Still, with only making a few starts last season and being plagued with arm injuries, he finished with a 3.16 ERA in 37 innings, giving up just 3 home runs, striking out 28, and giving up only 14 walks for a solid 131 ERA plus Remember that 100 number? Well, Wade Miley, in the few starts he made last year, he was well over it at 131. Very good. They're all very effective numbers for a guy who is at this point in his career, 12 years and 36 years old. He's a nice, cheap ad with huge upside, and if he doesn't work out or is hurt most of the season, it really doesn't cost us much at all, 4.5 mil. I think it's a great depth move that could give us some nice starts when our ballers at the top of the rotation need some rest or get hurt. I think Eric and I both looked at this and we're like, that's a nice move. It's not the splash move we were looking this offseason. The move came late, but heck, it's a depth move on a rotation that is very, very deep on its own and has young pieces coming up to assist it. So it's a very, like I said, it's a very huge upside kind of move. The next player we're going to talk about, who will maybe make some starts, or who knows with the Brewers. He may pitch out of the pen. His name is Jansen Junk. The Brewers acquired Jansen Junk in the Hunter Renfroe trade with the Angels. He's a 26-year-old right-hander who was drafted by the Yankees in the 22nd round of the 2017 MLB draft. He leans heavily on a low 90s fastball, which can touch 96 miles per hour when he's really on, and he has high spin rates on that pitch that have a tendency to carry up in the zone. Rising fastball is bad for hitters. He also features a slider and a curve, both in the 78 to 81 mile per hour range. He's got a lot to work on. He's probably going to spend most of the time in AAA. But like I said, you never know what could happen. I think that we will. Hard to say. I think we will see Jansen Junk this season. The Brewers have a knack for developing pitchers into the higher side of their potential. The book is yet out on Jansen, and let's see if he can bring the junk. The last pitcher we're going to highlight, who will likely make a couple starts for the Brewers in 2023, and I think he will. He will make some starts this year. It's 25-year-old Bryce Wilson, who we just acquired. The Brewers acquired the former top 100 prospect from the Pirates for cash in December before adding Wade Miley. Bryce Wilson gained national fame for outpitching Clayton Kershaw in an emergency start for the Braves in Game 4 of the 2020 National League Championship Series, where he pitched 6 innings of one-hit, one-run ball, and the Braves win. Though Wilson did have that fantastic performance when the lights were at their brightest, his big league career thus far has not been so illuminating. Through 232 and one-third career innings pitched, Bryce Wilson has a 5.54 career ERA since coming up in 18. His fastball, which was once dominant and landed him all the way up to number 60 on Baseball Prospectus's top 100 prospect list of 2022. As his velocity has gone down on the fastball over the years, he has relied more heavily on his sinker, and the Brewers plan to help him work on a splitter. Adding that repertoire, we have a way of fixing people, especially when it comes to pitching. Not so much with hitting, but when it comes to catchers and pitchers, we have a way of fixing guys. Let's hope. I mean, this is a guy who pitched in a National League Championship game, and he outpitched a mastermind, a legend of our time, one of the top 3 greatest pitchers of my personal generation, Clayton Kershaw. It's in there somewhere with Bryce Wilson. And it may be a long shot for him, but let's all hope he can get back to that dominant form we saw on the big stage in 2020. Another low-risk, high-reward move for the Brewers and the pitching staff. It's like just like just like Wade Miley, it's a really low-risk, high-reward kind of move. So let's close it out. Overall, I believe the Brewers rotation that has been so dominant for us the past several years will be even more so in 2023, I believe. The staff was burdened by injuries last year, and I think the depth that we have to back them up is far stronger than last year's Jason Alexander and good old Chichi Gonzalez. Burns will be his usual dominant self. Woodruff is only improving as the years go on. Freddie Peralta can't be played around with when healthy. Aaron Ashby is going to sell jerseys this year. He's going to be so good. And all the depth we have will prove to get us through some dog days and rough sinks. The staff comes in at an A. I give him an A coming into the season. I was going to give him an A-, but I do think that they improved upon last year, and I do think that we will see a healthier rotation this year. Let's hope they don't have to do it all their own. Let's hope they don't have to do all the heavy lifting. Let's get them some run support. Let's be loud as fans for them this season. We are witnessing the greatest starting pitching staff in Milwaukee Brewers history. Let's let them hear about it when we're out in the crowd. And with that, let's put this fresh cut for this week. We'll see you again next week to talk about relief pitching. How about that?
Butcher.
All right. You're
I
here?
snuck in out of nowhere. I've been here a while.
There
Great
you are.
takes. I love it, man. I love it, Butcher.
How
Looking
you
good.
doing?
You got a Pat McAfee vibe going. I was thinking that the whole time I was watching you.
Pat McAfee. Why is that? The muscles?
The sleeveless shirt, man.
Oh, okay.
Every day he stands, he's like standing there, and he's got no sleeves. So I just wanted to say that. Hey, I appreciate the work. I appreciate the love, brother. Love the hair. Looks good.
Thanks.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this pitching staff. Just listening to you talk about it more and more. I think, like you said, with that Wade Miley move, that's something that just shores it up. You know what I mean? And like we're sitting at a point now here where we're kind of starting to be like, okay, we're not making any more acquisitions. This is what we got. This is where we are. It's not as bad. I mean, you still have three of the best pitchers that are out there, three all-star pitchers, and hopefully a full season of Freddie, barring no injuries. You know what I mean?
I mean, every full season we've seen of Freddie thus far has just been lights out. I mean,
Right.
other than early in his career when he was figuring stuff out, but Freddie is as dominant as any pitcher in the National League Central, I think. And
Did you know I was here?
what's that?
Did you know I was here?
I saw the screen change. I actually had to cover this laptop screen up with my other laptop to get my notes. So I noticed like some change there, but I didn't know you were here.
I
was a
snuck
nice
in the
surprise.
background. So this has been the Butcher, and I just, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on and doing this. This has been a fun week for me. This has been week and a half now. We're technically I've got 3 episodes in for this week already. So
Right.
after this one's done,
Most people don't even have 2 work days.
well, exactly. So the ideal part about this is right now is you are doing great work. You're putting stuff out there. We're getting this thing running. And once it just becomes automatic and we can hop on and we can do lives once in a while and that kind of thing. So it's really good. I love it. I love where we're at. I got to record an intro for this episode and then I'm basically ready to drop it. You got it.
This is kind of our spring training before the season. We're locking in all our stuff so that we can be dialed in.
Right. We got to fine tune. You got to fine tune.
Yeah. And I'm learning more about the team than I know just watching the games because I'm
right. Well,
really extensive research.
In that interview I did yesterday with Dillard, he said, like he's not really plugged in until it's time. Like, so he's basically on the plane on the way there, and he's got his laptop and he does all his prep. He was talking about Brian Anderson, how prepped Brian Anderson is.
Yeah.
And he's just like a mess and he's got papers everywhere. Kind of like my office, to be honest with you, but
yeah, I heard that portion of the interview, and I was listening to that and thinking to myself, who am I more of, a Tim Dillard or a Brian Anderson? And I think I would consider myself more of a Brian Anderson. I like to have everything set before I talk because if anyone ever wants to fight me on something, I want to have the ammo to back them up.
Right. I think you're going to really dig, and that's coming up tomorrow, guys. I know we're just kind of chatting between the two of us here, but it's coming up tomorrow, guys, at the Dominic Catronio, the statistician for Bally Sports Wisconsin. He also does the post-game wrap on WTMJ 620, the flagship station, as he kept saying. It was kind of funny. He's a really interesting guy, too, and he used to do Locked On. And the guy just has a knowledge. And I said to him at one point, I'm like, you don't lose arguments. You never lose arguments, do you? Because he logics you in a way. And I talked to him actually after the Josh Hader trade. And the guy just like had me like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay.
I wish I could have had him. I wish I could have had him in my corner when we were arguing about that trade. Because we went on about that.
In retrospect, look at the retrospect of this deal. Even the organization said they screwed up.
Well, I'm looking forward to that conversation. I'm looking forward to hear how he compiles stats and what sort of tips and tricks and cheats he might have.
It's just a different mentality. It's crazy. It really is. Like, I've learned so much in so little time here. And it's funny because, just doing this and now on this platform is a lot easier. If you type in the Dillard interview on YouTube, I encourage everyone to do this, even you, to type in the original Dillard interview. It's just amazing the difference in technology and having Tim Dillard in screen side by side instead of being on a Skype call where I'm recording it on my iPhone while I'm doing the Skype call on my laptop. It's a whole different world. I can pop in while you're recording on the website. It's great. So that being said, I'm going to close this thing out.
Thank you, everyone.
Say it.
Oh, don't widen the plate.
Soup pitched great.
No soup pitch. Come on.
Sorry. That's a 5-tool thing. Go back to 5-tool days. All right. So thank you guys for watching. As always, go Brewers.
Go Brewers.
Hang on for a second, Ram. I'm just going to end this real quick.
Thank you for watching the Miller Park Minute. Go Brewers.